Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researchers Celebrity. Today we have eminent Dr. S. Sathyakumar with us as our researcher celebrity. A brief introduction about sir. Dr. Sathyakumar has done his bachelor's in zoology from University of Madras and master's in wildlife biology from Bharatidasan University, Tamil Nadu. Then for PhD, while working in Wildlife Institute, he pursued wildlife sciences, and the degree was awarded by Saurashtra University, Rajkot, Gujarat. He currently retired as a scientist G and registrar from Wildlife Institute of India. With this brief introduction, I would like to say thank you so much, sir, and welcome at Researcher Celebrity.
Thanks for having me here. Delighted to be here on a conversation with you.
We always start these conversations that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
Uh, See, as kids, we all are fascinated by nature, birds, and animals. So I was one such kid. And the future compulsions and the pressure from peers and family is all that either you become an engineer or a doctor in those days. So I did try for medicine, but failed. And I took up zoology as in for my bachelor's, hoping that I would give it one more try during my first year. I did try, but then I failed again. And that was the time when one of my seniors of the same college came to give a talk about wildlife. As a student, I got inspired by his speech. He gave a very beautiful, presentation about wildlife, the behavior, and how many are endangered and what we could do. That day, I decided that I would like to do wildlife conservation through research. And then when I was in the final year, he again came to the institute, to the college in Madras to give a talk. And that is the time I really got into the wildlife seriously. And I talked to him and came to know that there is one college in southern India, southern Tamil Nadu, called ABC College in a place called Mailadurai. And that college is the only college that time in the entire Indian subcontinent offering wildlife biology as a course. So I applied for that, got selected, and then the naturalist inside me got activated because I was living in a city all these years, and for to study the masters, I went to a rural setup of India, and that's where I started looking at agricultural landscapes and neighboring Point Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary, looking at wildlife and visiting parks, national parks, and sanctuaries along with my friends and teachers and learning about wildlife. And that was the time I read a lot about wildlife and decided that I will become a wildlife researcher and pursue this as a career. So that was the beginning, and I succeeded in that. So after my master's, I wrote the national entrance test conducted by the Wildlife Institute of India in 1988 and cracked it. Uh, and there were about 100 candidates who wrote the exam, of which 20 were shortlisted for the interview and then 9 selected. That was the very first batch of researchers who were formally inducted through a national entrance test. I was the one who got selected amongst the 9. And after joining the Wildlife Institute of India, it's a prestigious institution, a premier institution in India that is working towards strengthening wildlife conservation management through research, teaching, training, and advisory services. So I think the best part and turning point in my life was joining Wildlife Institute of India as a researcher.
Mhm. So during that time when not many people actually chose this path, the conventional now it seems like more conventional, like you do your undergrads, then like your graduation, masters, PhD. It's like for so many researchers in this age, it is very smooth path. But the time when you're talking about in 1980s, not many people were actually looking for PhD. What was the first thought which you know uh, keep you going to pursue PhD, not jobs after masters?
Yes. For instance, I was only the fourth batch or fifth batch from that college.
Hmm.
I did meet some of my seniors who are working as researchers doing PhD. So I knew that they were doing PhD. But as a job, I never even thought that there could be job prospects for a course like this, which was not even recognized by even the state or the center.
Mm-hmm.
Many of my friends who took up masters in zoology or went for other subjects um, were really concerned, and some people even discouraged me to pursue this course because they
Mm-hmm.
thought wildlife biology was a science that was not even heard of at the time, as you rightly mentioned. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a difficult choice that I made. Some people told me that I'm taking a risk, but I had somewhere in my mind some confidence that wildlife research is a new thing, but it's going to stay in a much bigger way in the future. I had that intuition, and I got a chance to read and get in touch with some of the stalwarts in wildlife conservation at that time, who
Mm-hmm.
began doing research on wildlife without any background, only passion and the art of walking in the jungle and trying to observe animals and birds and studying them. So I think when such people with no training and background, only by passion could become world-renowned wildlife scientists, why can't I become one? So I thought masters is not my end. It should be a PhD, and I still have plans for my further degrees, which would be a DSc, which
Mm-hmm.
I should be largely reviewing my own work of the last 3.5 decades that I'm going to have done. So I'll try and submit a doctoral thesis for DSc also. That's I'm not going to stop. So I knew that wildlife is in danger in this country, and there are several endangered species. In 1972, India enacted the Indian Wildlife Protection Act. So hunting had just stopped, populations were recovering, but there's still a lot of problems in the country about poaching and illegal trade in wildlife, habitat loss, fragmentation, and so several species were needed. So we needed a big human resource in the country which would study them, understand the importance of habitats, and then protect them and manage them to save species. So I was in the first initial lot trying to do basic ecology and behavior of species without any technology. Very simple work, just walking in the jungle and wilderness and trying to collect data on species and understand what are their requirements, and then uh, help with that information the management can be done to save species. In my study I did was on the mountain ungulates, the wild goat and sheep of Himalayan region. It was not my choice. It was only I was forced to go and do that work. The institutes had several projects. I was my mentor thought I would be good in that place, which but I really not. I was not very confident about that at that time. Very simple reason. I am from Chennai, born and brought up there at the sea level, and the place I was going to go was in the Himalayan region. So I went and asked him, "How did you decide that the meeting committee decided that I could go and work in that project?" Because a person who has not been in mountain terrains and high altitudes where temperatures are low and language it was an issue and things like that, I was asking him, but he said, no, no, you can go and manage things like that. Uh, I was in a dilemma whether to go and go up the mountains and work or go back home. But my guru, Dr. AJT Johnson, he passed away 1 year ago in June 2024. My mentor and guru and PhD guy, he said, no, you will make a big career in wildlife sciences if you take a path like high altitude ecology or Himalayan ecology. So that kind of encouragement and support I got. I went there and I never looked back. So today I am recognized for the work that I've done only in the Indian Himalayan region. That's how it
Mm-hmm.
came up to. So I looked at mountain animals like Himalayan musk deer, the Himalayan tar, goral, sirrow, then blue sheep, and so on and so forth. That work was the one that actually helped me to move forward in life. And when he talked about the constraints, yes, language, new area, culture, high altitudes, temperatures. You don't wear any pullover or warm clothing in a hot and humid place like Chennai, but you're wearing here a lot of clothing and doing work and all. And that work led to my PhD, which was well appreciated, and everybody cites that work even today. So I think that those challenges of no, there's something called fear for the unknown for researchers.
Mm-hmm.
So this fear for the unknown is that what will happen if I go there? What will happen if I don't get data? What will happen if my experiments fail? This fear everybody has. It was my mentor who said that you have fear for the unknown. Unless and until you go there and stay there and work there, you won't know what you're going to get or not get. So in science, even zero is an answer, right? Is a
Mm-hmm.
result. So uh, there are days when I would have been climbing mountains with my backpack, 5, 6 days and then go and not get even one visual encounter of a study species.
Mm-hmm.
You're climbing all day, but you don't see an animal. So it's being in the right time and in the right place. Animal distributions are like that. You don't know where will you see them, and so it's a big challenge to try and spot animals in the mountains. And in those cases, um, unlike other areas where you can drive and see, in this case I was only climbing, and sometimes you see animals at great distances. So using binoculars and telescopes to see animals and record and study them was all very challenging and interesting, and I did that.
Nice. So, as you mentioned about your mentor, your PhD supervisor, so what you have learned from him, that pushing your limits, that okay, you go explore until unless you go, how you then mentored your students over the period of time, the things which you actually imbibed from your mentor, and the based on this experience, what you can share with our audience that how they should finalize, and we'll come to the next part of this question, that when they are thinking to join a laboratory or a supervisor for their PhD, what are the things which they should be very keen about and very observant?
See, I think you should listen to yourself first. I think there may be many projects, but you have to find out which is the one that really you would be passionate about. A particular animal or a particular topic may be of great importance to somebody, and for the other person it may not be as valuable as what you think. That's one thing. Second thing is that I learned from a mentor is that don't take the path that has already been tread up, right? There are hundreds of researchers in India working on tigers, but if you ask me how many people work on snow leopards or very rare animals in India, you will find there are only a handful.
Mhm.
So I would suggest to researchers that you choose the path which is less treaded or not treaded. If you go to a place, then you make your name and you are attached to it forever. So take the path that has been less treaded, and also do it passionately, whatever it is. It could be tiger beetle or tiger, but do it passionately. If you have too many researchers trying to work on a particular topic or a similar kind of experiment, then you have a lot of competition. So you have to be really very good to excel amongst the hundreds of people doing the same thing. But if you take a new path or take a path that's unconventional or do something that's out of the box, then I think you will make your own path. And
Absolutely.
that would be really interesting. And when I worked, I believed mostly on my heart and my lungs because you're breathing in rarefied atmosphere, and my strong legs and the willpower to go in cold climatic conditions, 1 meter deep snow or frost, bitten situations. That's because you had the passion that it's your PhD. You have to go and look for it and now work, make that extra effort and all. I tried doing this with the students, same off. So from my generation and the first generation of PhD students I supervised, I tried to give them all, and they did imbibe all of that. So I am happy that they are all in well settled, doing excellent work because they also did not let the naturalist inside them die,
Mhm.
and they looked at evidence-based research with using some quantitative ecology and coming up with a proper hypothesis, experiments, and results to and discussion. But the latest group of people whom I supervised, this is the technology era. Okay. Your eyes are replaced by camera traps, isn't it? Though you have automatic cameras that are deployed in the forest, so those keep taking pictures of animals. So people are now covering larger areas. When I covered a very small area, they are now covering larger areas extensively, a lot of funds, deploying camera traps, putting satellite collars. My students have done radio telemetry studies on animals. And so they are getting a lot of data, you know. And I would say that they are seeing more animals in the camera trap images rather than going and seeing them in the wild. So, but they have a lot of data, a lot of quantitative information to analyze and do a lot of statistical tests and come up with models and things like that, which in those days were not possible because I was doing simple, conventional natural history and biology observations. Today, with technology like data loggers and camera traps and telemetry, you are getting a lot of it. So, today's students, I find that there is a lack of interest to walk, trek, go and see in the field. They're more interested in getting those information in the lab, computer lab, and start punching in all those, hundreds and thousands of images and trying to analyze them. I'm not saying that's not very important. That's important, but I think fundamentally, people like us who are working in wilderness should not lose the connect of walking in the forest and observing animals and studying them. That's my feeling. And so I think today's generation is much more smarter, much more
Mm-hmm.
intelligent, and they are able to use a lot of tools. And they are, I think, very smart. I really compliment them. I see the change today. So that way, I think today the youngsters are looking at very many problems in very different ways, innovatively, and using collaborative research and trying to read up. So that kind of things are still happening. So that way, I think only change that will happen is technology,
Mm-hmm. So,
and the related, lack of reduction in the original way of working. That has reduced. Otherwise, it's fine.
absolutely. No, I think the way that was one of my questions, which you already answered, and we'll talk about it. I will take this time to tell all the audience here that as Dr. Satyakumar has mentioned about technology has transformed research in almost every area. Okay. But what you always have to think and be considerate about the area of your research. A bioinformatician doesn't have to be in the field if they do not like it. But if you are doing conservation biology, vector biology, where you have to encounter with the species, then if you do not like it, probably change the area because, as Sir mentioned, if you are not passionate about your project, you might accomplish all the research goals, but then it will not be that fruitful, or you will probably not feel that contentness in you, which you obviously will enjoy more if that is something which you like. As Sir also mentioned, that listening, like it, the journey should start by listening to yourself. You should listen to yourself, and then you're like, okay, I like this one. There might be other people or not who like or hate that project, but just because you like it, you start working towards it, and that's how you succeed in it. Now, coming back, sir, when you mentioned that you have seen this change in these generation over the period of time because of technology, how, if I will say that today a student who really want to be in the field, okay, and then there are their peers who are just sitting in the lab, this is a real life situation where they said like, okay, I have done all the hard work in the field and they are sitting in the lab just analyzing the data. So the conflicts which occurs due to this difference in efforts, like work efforts, how you have dealt it, and based on your experience, what you can tell to the audience.
So I think it's all about the perception about how you deal with things. When I was spending my prime youth climbing mountains with a backpack and trying with the binoculars and recording species, my own batchmates were in engineering, in IITs and other institutions, universities, comfortably placed in cities of India and doing great work. I don't think I can compare myself with them because they have chosen mathematics, physics, and technology. They are in that place. I had chosen wildlife science, so I have to be in the wild. That was one thing. In fact, when we all got connected many years later, so I'm talking about my schoolmates, school batch, they voted which whose job is the most envious. Mine was voted as the most envious job because the places that they pay to go, I am paid to go and work. This is a difference. But even in our group, there are people who work on genetics. They go sometimes or they work on samples brought by others. They are doing research because working in lab to do genetics is also a very tedious job. So again, I cannot compare a person who's only working in field and only work in lab. And I cannot say that, oh, he is enjoying sitting in the lab and I'm climbing mountains. That's not the right way of looking at it. When you have made a choice to be here and content, I think we should do that. And right now, I think uh, if somebody is very good in his field, work, and it's a very small world, you will get recognition automatically. Your work speaks for yourself.
Hmm.
Your publication speaks for your work. People may not know your name, face, but they'll know that there's one guy doing work there and it is by word of mouth. It's a very small community in India, wildlife community. So anybody working in a place in high mountains of India or in the uh, islands of Nicobar or Andaman, if they are doing good work, you will get to know about it because it's by only word of mouth and your publications. People need not know you. Today you have technology when you can actually see a person. But otherwise, in those days, it was not like that. I think it's about the perception. I think one should compare only oneself to himself, like or herself. So like I compare myself of how I was last year and how I am this year and how I'm going to be tomorrow. I think everyone should consider himself or herself as a measure and compare only no comparisons with others. I think that's the
Absolutely.
best way of moving forward.
I think that is what also people say, that comparison is the thief of all the joy, which is correct. We should not compare with others. And also, one point which you mentioned, that choices you make is what make you researcher in the first place. So we have talked about most of the good part of research, how you enjoyed it, you were so passionate about it. Now let's take a moment to talk about the stress it brings, like the stress you have gone through or you have seen your students going through, how to handle that stress. Because currently what we are seeing in India as well as globally, that students are dropping their PhDs after 3 4 5 years. Sometimes they have put all the hard work in there and somehow either not able to handle the stress or do not know how to navigate those failed experiments or the results, or their experiments not following their hypothesis.
In my case, a little bit of stress was there during the writing of my thesis. I agree because after the fieldwork was completed, I got a job at the Wildlife Institute as a scientist. So I was doing teaching, training, and field supervision, and so I could not give full time to write my thesis because I was employed. I had to do my regular jobs as well as keep evenings or early mornings to write my thesis. So in this process, my thesis got delayed submission. If I would have not got a job, probably that would have given me the full push to do it. But I doubt everybody, after the data is collected, everybody wanders a little bit here and there. That happens. And everybody thinks that they are writing the best PhD thesis in the world, which is not true. It's not at all true. So if you want to improve your thesis, you can improve it every day, but there's no end to it. So today, if I read my thesis after 35 years, I will be laughing at it because whatever I did that time might look very simple today. But at that point in time, that was the best I could do. So
Mhm,
I tell all my students, instead of writing a very good thesis, which probably very few people will read, the two
mhm,
examiners and probably the guide, you focus on writing good papers, which many people would be able to read, and even write popular articles, which general
mhm.
public will read. So that's what I'm trying to say. That's one kind of stress. The other stress I really faced was about security of my own job. Because when I
Mhm.
got a job, it was on a contractual basis initially. And I also got married and I had a kid. So then you start worrying about what will happen to you. You know, you need in India, this getting a permanent secure job is something of utmost priority in this country, which is now changing. Now many people are working, hopping jobs and things like that. But at that time in the 90s, getting a permanent job was very crucial. And that was a stress that I would say I had, but thankfully I did manage to get a job in 1999, and then things started stabilizing. But today I see students in our institute, researchers in our institute are stressed. Stressed because at that time we were only 30 researchers. Today we have 650 researchers. Now everybody cannot get job in the same institution or other institutes and conservation NGOs. So everybody keeps thinking what will happen to them, which is really a big concern. And if you're really good in your work, you'll get picked up a permanent job or in the private or in the government sector. But if you're above average or average, then you're struggling to find your own niche and establish. So this stress is there. That is there. I think this is happening in all fields in our country because India is right now a very big population of young people who are in this levels of education, research, on degrees and scientist jobs and other jobs. I think it's happening. So I think people have to be really, uh, uh, you know, well prepared for facing the situation. I always believed in one thing: when one door closes, many doors open. I always believed. And if there is a delay, there is some reason to it. So it all also had a luck factor also plays in. You might ask that you went for an interview, your colleague got it, you didn't get it. That always happens. But I think everybody carries his or own luck. But I think we should never give up, be positive, and handle situations. I think everyone who did work in this field are today gainfully employed in one way or other. But they may not have got their dream job, but they are settled somewhere.
Absolutely. And this brings us to our next question about, as you mentioned, that most of the PhD students now in India are bachelors. They either during their PhD or just after their PhD, they get married or start, extending families, which brings now the concept of work-life balance to the life. So when you're a bachelor, you can spend hours in lab altogether. But when you have family responsibilities, then it changes. Obviously, it helps you mature as a researcher. But what are your, advice to the young researchers at this point of time who are struggling through that work-life balance? What they should do?
I think I personally feel that there is 24 hours a day. If you manage this 24 hours, I think you can stay happy. So you have to keep a little bit for what you want to do for personally, me time. If you want to watch a movie in the weekend, please do it. You want to play a game or do your gymming or yoga or just go for a party. Yes, please do all that. That is really important for you. Please go ahead and do it. But manage your time. Give quality time to your family, your parents, your relatives. Give quality time to yourself and quality time to your spouse. And most importantly, manage time for your research. I think that is the only way to be happy. Today, I see couples who are not living in the same place,
Yeah.
two different parts of the country. They're working, meeting in the weekend, or maybe only talking over mobiles. That's it. And I think this is happening in this country, and there are many people who are pursuing their careers and are content with that work because they think jobs are important and they're working. They may work in two different cities, but yet they get their own time in the weekends or something like that. So one travels to the other's place and they manage it. I think support to your partner and managing your time is the key. I think people here want to sleep also long duration of time, laze around also for long duration of time, and yet say that I'm not able to do this. I think that's what is the reason. I think people have to plan this. People say I work better, I'm productive during late night at 1 in the night, midnight, or 2 o'clock. If you're productive, please go ahead. Sleep
Mhm.
whole day. I don't mind, but the output is more important than whether you're coming to the a lab or not. That's what I
Mhm.
believe. Yeah.
No, I think this is something which we have seen with the current generation of researchers, that some are very a morning person. They want to do only like 8 to 4 or 5 during the day, and some of them are just like second shift of it. Once everyone is left, that's when they start working at 6 and then till work till 4 a.m. But as you mentioned, output driven research is what we are looking at these days. And this brings us to the next question of like, okay, as you mentioned, the time management is the most important part for any researcher. But how about the topic of mental health? Because what has been seen in, and I think now in India, we started talking about research and researchers' mental health, which means either if you are in a very top tier institute where most of the issues have been reported, where students are either dropping out after so many years working on projects, or in very sad cases when there are suicides, which has happened, reported in India and also somewhere outside the India also. Like how we should acknowledge this fact that, to start with, every researcher is human being. There might be concerns, or constant stress is what is impacting their mental health. So what are your guidance or thoughts to the researchers who are going through that?
See, this is only in the recent years we are using coming to know about the stress amongst researchers. It has been recognized as an issue and a problem in the country. Even all the institutes have recognized it. So even in our institute, it has been recognized. So we do counseling sessions. We call renowned experts who come and address the students, clear their doubts. We also have a set of phone numbers to whom, like, the people can talk to, and we live in a campus where the hostels and faculty with families live to in the same area. So the researchers coming and meeting faculty families, or meeting on festivals like Diwali, or Independence Day, or in doing our annual research seminar, cultural programs and all. I think we have enough opportunities for interacting and getting issues sorted out. I agree there is an issue here, but not very much in this particular field, at least in at our institute. But we have made measures to address these things, and we are regularly creating those awareness interactions with experts. That's that one we're doing.
Absolutely. And I think, as you mentioned about counseling sessions, this is what, like now we see that researchers are more open for counseling sessions. There was a time when, like probably 10 years ago, 5 years ago, when people used to say that, okay, go seek a counselor. And then the first reaction was like, I'm not mental, I'm not mad. Yes, it's not, like we always say through these conversations that if you can seek a doctor when you have a fever or an infection physically, then why it is not acceptable that if you have to understand that you are going through a phase where your mental health also needs some counseling, as you mentioned that people, and the first thing is like talking to family and friends can help you big time. But if something is not working, then obviously there is nothing wrong in seeking the, as you said, the counseling sessions or the expertise, because they are the one who are trained for it.
But I'd like to add here that as there have been cases where a couple of students have given up on their master's degree program or even PhD here. That would be like because they could not cope up with the pressure of delivering a report or a paper or a what do you call um, an output or a milestone of the project on time. Others could do it on a given date, a deadline. They are taking their own time to write and submit a report. But the university system has to follow certain dates for
Mhm.
your thesis submission and things like that. If somebody is taking too much time, then I think this person. So there have been we call the parents and ask them to take back the student and talk to him and find out why he's taking so much time to write and things like. So these things happen, but these are very small percentage in our field. Other
Mhm.
areas I may not be appropriate person to comment on, but here it's very minor problem. But yes, we are addressing it whenever required.
Yeah, no, I think this is what has been seen in recent times, that people, including the mentors, are more supportive. And in these conversations, we also talk about, like, if you think that PhD is not for you, doesn't mean that you have to do it. There is a way, like as you mentioned, that everyone has their own niche. You probably are more successful in another field, and you might not get your dream job, but once you have job, you have this security financially that you can make your transitions as and when required.
No,
So
no, there are people who are well recognized wildlife scientists without a PhD in this
mhm,
country. Okay, so they felt that degree is not required to, for as a compulsory thing those days. Now, to become a scientist, the first benchmark is you have to have a PhD degree. Those days it was not account. So there are people who are well recognized in the country, excellent people, but they don't have a PhD degree, but they are excellent people in the subject. So I think, and yes, if you have decided that degree is not your thing and you want to do conservation, you can actually be content and just do that.
absolutely. No, and this brings us to the next point of, like as you mentioned, that it's not the PhD which makes you a researcher. It's a researcher which either can take a PhD degree or not. But the thing is, like, how dedicated, passionate you are about your research project, or the research question you really want to ask, make this world a better place for animals, humans. As now, when we started talking about One Health, where everything come together and just try to help humanity, and even the globe as such. So sir, at this point of time, when we are talking towards the edge of the conversation, I would like to know your thoughts and guidance for the audiences, that how they should I'll say that plan, because now that is one thing which has been now upcoming an issue, because we produce so many PhDs every year in different fields in India. Most of them goes out for either postdocs or settling in there. But there has been a point where people were not aware that what they are going to pursue after their PhD. As you mentioned, when you were doing it, you already had something like, a job, and you were thinking about it. How they should prepare themselves before their PhD, or before committing to PhD, that what are they going to do with that degree?
I think everyone should, as an individual, knows the best about their own capabilities.
Hmm.
What you want to do and what you can do are two different things.
Yeah.
I may want to go to the moon, but I know I cannot do that, right? So I think a student individual has to assess himself or herself and then decide whether they're really made up for research. Because you need temperament in science, curiosity, asking questions, reading, discussing, having the bent of mind to propose hypotheses, set up experiments, go and verify, collect data, analyze, and very systematically evidence-based work. Whoever is willing to do, irrespective of what is going to happen in the end, about the research or about their own security, about job. I think if somebody is really mad about, passionate about research, I think they should pursue research. If somebody thinks that they can just do a PhD and then they'll get a job, then they fall in the second category of people who are there just to get a PhD degree. I know many of my friends studied masters just to get a degree. So there are people
Hmm.
who are just there to do a degree, but then if they are depending to nowadays, supervisors don't have much time in India,
Hmm.
in our own institute, with so many researchers and so many PhD students and so many master students. Listen, you have time. So we are always looking for people who are able to um, be independent and with minimum consultations can do. work and come up, very well in their work. That's the most important. So I think the decision whether you want to, you're made up for an academic and research career or just field conservation. You can save a species without doing a PhD also.
Yes.
Right. So if you think working with local communities, working for the species in the habitat can help to, or you're doing a rescue of the species, trying to observe the species in conflict areas and trying to reduce conflict, these are things that don't require a PhD.
Hmm.
Talking to local communities and getting their support to conservation doesn't need a PhD. So I think you need to have draw a line here and say that the ultimate purpose of conservation is either through science or through participation of local people and stakeholders. So if you think the second option is good for you, take it, and you will do much more better conservation by being there in the field to do certain things, whereas research will help to produce that knowledge that can help management to and policymakers to make decisions.
Absolutely. I think this is a nice sum up that how one should do their self assessment, that what are they going to do with that degree, or if they enjoy research, be open minded with it. Do not just marry the hypothesis that if you, and that is something which has been coming things. But curiosity is the should be the driving force in your research. Thank you so much, sir, for taking this time out. And I'll say to all the audience here that if you want to write to Dr. Satyakumar, you can write to him. If you want Empowering Science Foundation to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, we are there to help you. Yes, stress is a healthy amount of stress is good for every human being. Researchers are no exception to that, but it should not be chronic. With this, we'll say, yes, sir, please.
Yeah. Before we conclude, I just want to say a few more things. I think stress is good because under pressure, people produce what outputs are good. Second thing I would like to tell all the young people here is opportunities knock at your door. It's up to
Hmm.
you to make the best use of it. For example, my own case, I was walking in the corridor and one of my senior colleagues said, Satyakumar, would you like to go to the Antarctic?
Hmm.
Because I have been working in high altitudes and kind of working in colder areas. He said, would you like to go to the Antarctic? I said, yes. And immediately went and read up and wrote a proposal, went and made a presentation and defended it, got selected and went. And we started WII's first long-term monitoring of birds and mammals in the southern Indian Ocean and Antarctic. I could do this twice, and the project is still running where other colleagues and students have gone. And one of our students got his PhD also by working on the snow petrels in the mountains. That was one thing. The other thing is that there are some things like, for example, expeditions. One
Hmm.
time opportunity to go to, say, Nanda Devi, the most sought after mountain in the Western Himalaya. I would say, blessed to get that opportunity to go inside. And no, it's a place where only you need mountaineering support to go inside. It is a very difficult area, but going there and using mountaineering techniques with the support of the Indian Army or the ITBP, going there, studying those wilderness areas where no human activity is allowed, and
Hmm.
understanding what was the state of the species in the 80s, then 90s, and again in 2003. This kind of long-term monitoring of species areas are very important things, and these kind of opportunities are very, very rare. Only few people get these. So I think we should be able to look at opportunities and make best use of the opportunities that come by.
Absolutely. I think this is very important as you mentioned that not many people in this world anyways are researchers. So we are those few who have these opportunities knocking at the door and should be taken open-handed, as you mentioned. Yes, absolutely, sir. We agree, and this is something which we always say that if you're driven by your passion for research, research will never let you down. That is one thing which is for sure. You have experienced it for your life, and now also giving back to the society. Thank you so much, sir, for taking time out and having this conversation with us.
Thank you very much. It was nice talking to you.
For all the audience, I'll say that now you stay tuned for another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Be passionate and enjoy your research.